Live from the TV30 studio, here is Jim Schneider.
Well, good evening and welcome to inFocus. We're glad that you've joined us for our broadcast. This is going to be our final inFocus program of this season. We run September through May. In order to, as we prepare for the summer ahead, but next Monday we're making way for a very special production from Alex Newman at the New American that's entitled Transhumanism, Beyond Human or Beyond Evil. Some very clandestine things are going on the World Economic Forum front right now. And of course, you'll find ties to Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates and so many other major players in this about certainly chipping human beings, and not only for identification, but also that of tracking purposes. And those who are with Klaus Schwab also indicate that just as we can hack into a computer, we need to hack into humanity as well. So that issue, that special production next Monday night during this program on inFocus. Tonight, though, we are going to welcome back Julaine Appling from Wisconsin Family Council, Wisconsin Family Action. Mother's Day, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, set aside to honor moms and really a time to celebrate life. But for the organizations that you represent, Julaine, it was anything but that. It was that of the destruction of life, those who propose that lifestyle, determined to destroy life, determined also to destroy property, and to threaten those who hold to life, marriage, family, and liberty, freedom, you know, as you do at Wisconsin Family Council and Wisconsin Family Action. Good to have you back here on the program. We've got a lot to unwrap here this evening, but not a Mother's Day that you anticipated.
No, it wasn't. Unlike any Mother's Day I ever have had, or I hope ever will have. So, you know, people say, well, where were you? Well, I was where I am on Sunday, right? I was in church. Mm-hmm. We were getting ready for about 150 women to come to a Mother's Day brunch at our church. I was helping get set up for that. It was about 7:30. I got to church, 7:45. Actually, another team member's phone rang, and I was standing near it, and I knew she wasn't, so I picked it up, and I thought, wow, why is this other team member calling? Mm-hmm. And in fact, this team member lives in Michigan, but come to find out, she said, you better call our office management immediately. We've had an attack on our office. So I called, and I learned in that phone call about 7:45 in the morning that we'd had 2 Molotov cocktails attempted to get into our office. We found out subsequent to that, Jim, that one of them they threw at the window, and the window didn't break, so it didn't go in. So they broke a window and threw the second one in. And then, because it didn't do exactly as much damage as they wanted, they actually started a fire. Mm. And then, of course, they put the graffiti on 2 of the walls outside our office. And I finished up as quickly as I could there at church and took off and called the police. Well, the police called me en route and learned a few more details about it. But got down to the office about 10 o'clock in the morning that morning, and it was a stunning sight to see. Yeah,
and we've got a photo of that office site here as well that indicates this is where you normally work out of.
Yeah, you know, and it's been over a week now, right? Mm-hmm. And we keep that door closed because the smell is horrendous, and we've been told the air is actually toxic. It's filled with poisons that we shouldn't be breathing on a regular basis. And the more I've stopped to think about this, the more I sense the reality of it, in the sense that that's where I've spent a lot of happy hours. That's my workplace. Mm-hmm. I made it, you know, I mean, I put my touches on it. It's my papers, it's me. I've made a lot of big decisions in there. I've had a lot of important things happen in there. And it was always been a safe workplace for me. And now it's been very much violated. Yeah. And I understand a little bit about that. When people say, you know, when they get break-ins, how they feel violated. Mm-hmm. And you do. So yeah, that picture actually is the very first one we took when we went into the office. So we were the second people on. And
you mentioned the graffiti as well.
Yeah, the graffiti was really stunning. It says, if abortions aren't safe, then you aren't either. Mm-hmm. And that's a direct threat on us as an organization, certainly. But this whole thing is not just about us. This whole thing is about anyone who holds biblical values. Now, right now, the target was on us because of our life position, right? Jim, you know how this goes. At this point, it's about life. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, it could be about marriage or family or human sexuality or religious freedom.
And that's what Tucker Carlson brought out in the interview that he did with you, that this is very much a target against Christianity itself.
Well, we're the impediment. And, you know, I've said this for years, and I know you have too. In order to advance a liberal agenda, you've got to get rid of the things that are in your way. So what do they have to do? They have to go to the impediments and say, all right, we have to silence you, we have to sideline you, maybe we have to destroy you. And so they've been systematically doing that. Look, they try to do it through the courts, they try to do it through legislation, they try to do it, you know, by drowning us out in the cultures, so to speak. How do you get to a cancel culture? What are they canceling? They're canceling truth. And that's what they did in trying to destroy us. Now, they didn't think, they knew good and well no one was there at whatever time in the morning it was done. Somebody going by our office en route to the Madison airport at 6 o'clock saw smoke coming from our office and called the fire department. But when it was actually set, they figured it was somewhere between 4 and 5:30. They knew we weren't there. They wanted a symbol, though. We're coming for you. We're coming because you're a visible reminder that we've got to get rid of you in order to advance our agenda.
There was another piece of graffiti left behind as well, and it was an anarchist symbol.
Yeah. It was. It's the classic anarchy symbol. It's a circle with a big A in it. And then next to that are the numerals 1312. And I didn't know, 1312, I didn't know what that was. So we looked it up. And for polite conversation, it means all cops are bad. Now, that's not the way they say it. But in retrospect, we don't think that's anybody claiming responsibility. We think that is another dissident message. We hate you, and we hate cops. Because there wasn't any identifiable, you know, singularly recognizable group that was attached to that.
But there is another group known as Jane's Revenge. Tell us about this.
Well, they took, on Tuesday morning, they took credit for it. Now, mind you, by Sunday afternoon, we had the 2 FBI agents in the office. We had a member of the ATF,
Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
Yeah, and he was there, and we had the detectives from the local police department and the arson division from the fire department, and all these people are involved with it. Nobody, you know, and we don't know anything except they took evidence out. So on Tuesday morning, we get this note saying, okay, Jane's Revenge has taken credit. And I know a lot of people don't understand, how did it get the name Jane's Revenge? Well, the Roe v. Wade actually goes back to an original plaintiff whose name, who anonymously was out there as Jane Doe. Okay, not the Roe, but the Jane Doe. It was another plaintiff involved in all of this abortion issue years ago. And basically what they said was, this is the first one. There's many more. We're going to go all across the country. There won't be any warning, but we're coming for you. And in the next 30 days, you better be out of business and be shut up, or you're going to have the same thing or more happen to you. Now, to be honest with you, we've not heard anything from any law enforcement agency at any level on the validity of that claim. But it would seem to me it's a starting point, right? And nobody knows much about this group, if it's a rename of an older group or if it is a new group that is out there.
Now, we also know that as Wisconsin Family Action, Wisconsin Family Council was targeted in this. Out on the West Coast, there was another, it was a crisis pregnancy center, pregnancy care center that was targeted. We also know that on Mother's Day, a number of Catholic churches were targeted across the nation as well. It seems somebody's really trying to get a message out there.
Well, they are. Look, you know, I knew on Monday, before Mother's Day, whatever date that was. I'm sorry, the last week I kind of lost track of time. But that Monday when the leaked opinion was out, and you could see everything start to shift. Their air hoses stepped on, Jim. When they saw that opinion, and a majority opinion, even though it's a draft and it's early, and boy, I hope our viewers understand, up until the time that we get that final opinion, everything could change.
Right.
But once they saw that air hose of having the ability to, quote, legally destroy unborn babies was stepped on. And they started doing desperate things. And one of them was, you watch the news more than I do even, or pay attention to it. Within minutes of the Politico releasing that, who's out in front of the Supreme Court?
Right.
All these rioters and protesters.
Signs already made up.
So coordinated. Yeah, it was so coordinated. But you knew that was a signal. If they're going to do that, and they were already threatening the justices, you knew that something like this could happen. Now, you know, you don't process it and say, oh, it's me.
Right.
But we knew that. One of the things that I just find so regrettable is on Mother's Day this happens. So wherever this was taking place, we'll talk specifically about our office, whoever did that, instead of being with their moms celebrating the women who gave them life, they're out there trying to destroy, to gain the right to destroy unborn babies and deprive women of the blessing of being a mother. How upside down can we get? You know?
Julaine, this was really designed to terrify you, your organization, into silence. Are you folding up?
No. You know, I said this over and over again last week. If anything, Jim, this emboldens us because it tells us we're doing something that got people's attention, and we need to keep doing it. We need to keep showing up, standing up, and speaking up. This is not the time to cower. You know, Thomas Paine wrote that famous statement about sunshine soldiers and summer patriots, and this is a time for us to not be like that. This is a time for us to say, we have a job to do. We cannot quit. Last week, it was not normal. I'm not trying to say it was normal, but we kept as many balls in the air as we could on our normal work. We had an event on Thursday night in Verona. We went, we showed up, the team was there, we did what we were supposed to do. Now we took some security with us, you know, we weren't foolish, but we can't, none of us. And again, I want to say this is symbolically about all of us, especially all of us who name the name of Christ, hold to biblical values and a biblical worldview. They have to do their best to silence us. When and if we go silent, they win.
It was a week ago Monday that that leak came forth. Matter of fact, it was right shortly, or 2 weeks ago, that leak came forth, and you had put out a press release shortly thereafter indicating that you're remaining cautiously optimistic in regard to this, but the revenge came out at your organization as a result of this, trying to silence you, trying to intimidate, strike fear in you to make you fold up and go away. But it's not only you, but there also appears to be a very clandestine effort at the same time to intimidate the conservative members of the United States Supreme Court. I mean, the protest taking place outside their homes in violation of federal law.
Well, that's what I don't understand. But I think this is why it continues to happen. This is why I have called for an immediate investigation, aggressive investigation, expedient investigation. So these protesters that are showing up at the 5 justices who are conservative, why are they allowed to do that? It's a lack of leadership. They don't have any fear. Nobody's coming for them. The reason that people could perpetuate this again across the country, what happened to us, why maybe it happened in Portland, Oregon, and at these Catholic, because leadership is absent. Nobody's saying, stop, right now, we're coming for you, and we are going to prosecute you to the full extent of the law. Yeah. Look at the statements that came from our leaders about what happened to us.
We see, I mean, this just gives us such a reminder of what we saw with the Black Lives Matter movement, or what Tony Evers did with Kenosha, Wisconsin, just totally abandon Kenosha, and even as they're, you know, we're pleased for help. Let's just look here. This is the U.S. Code here as it relates to whoever with the intent of interfering with, obstructing, or impeding the administration of justice, or with the intent of influencing any judge, juror, witness, or court officer in the discharge of his duty, pickets or parades in or near a building housing a court of the U.S., or in near a building or residence occupied or used by such judge, juror, witness, or court officer, or with such intent uses any sound truck or similar device, or resorts to any other demonstration in or near any such building or residence, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, doing nothing in regard to this. Joe Biden doing nothing to this. Jen Psaki, who was then press secretary, now gone, encouraged it. The president encourages, you know, the protest outside their homes.
And that's why it keeps going.
They're going to take it to the streets.
Well, and that's why it keeps happening. Yes. Because there's no fear that they actually are going to be hauled up on charges and really, truly prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The minute that they went out and went in front of those justices' houses, with everybody in the nation, Jim, who has been watching this story, knows what they're trying to do, to get those conservative justices so fearful, so you know, afraid that for their families, because these justices have to take that into account. They're all family people. Then that they'll change their vote, and you know, we don't know. We haven't seen that final draft, and that final opinion. I don't think the Chief Justice is helping matters particularly either. I suspect he might be out trying to convince, because let's remember, it's just going to take one. It's going to take one to flip it.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to air a statement here from Justice Clarence Thomas, because he recognizes this, and I believe the other conservative constitutional jurists also recognize this on the bench, that they are making a right decision. None of them have switched their vote. But here's a statement that he had to make, that he made in relation to this.
I think in so many ways the thing that allows all of us, or me in public life, to remain steady is an abiding faith. And I think you've got to, I use my litany of humility. I keep it directly across my desk from me, that you understand that it's not about you. It's about things that are far more important than you, and whether people are mad at you has nothing to do with whether you're right. You know, you can be in the middle of a hurricane, or you can be on a calm day. North is still north. You could be in a thunderstorm. North is still north. People can yell at you. North is still north. It doesn't change fundamental things. And in this business, right is still right, even if you stand by yourself.
Julaine, north is still north, right is still right. I mean, the decision being made here is that regardless of whether there be the hurricane or storm or whatever's going on, right is still right, north is still north.
And I'm so glad he is well and back at it, right, for such a time as this.
Yeah.
He's exactly right. And that's why, you know, Jim, you've heard me say this before. I don't wake up in the morning, wet my finger, go out and figure out what the political winds are.
Right.
Right is right, north is north, truth is truth. And as he said, he talks about his abiding faith. That's what guides us. And our faith says, no, you don't cower in the day of adversity. You don't run and hide in the day of threats and bullying and intimidation.
Right.
You do what's right. You stay focused on that North Star. For us, it's the Lord Jesus Christ, right? And the word that he's given us to give us guidance. And you just take each day as best you know the path that's laid out before you. And we've got to have courage to do that.
Yeah.
This is a time that's going to test our mettle. And so we have to stand up and say, you can try. And I said it multiple times last week. If they really thought that they were going to intimidate us into going away and being quiet, they picked the wrong group. It's not going to happen.
Julaine, I'd like to focus in on different reactions to this as well. And I was just floored when I saw the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel on the Monday after, and you and I discussed this on radio last week as well. But this is the headline from page 1 of the Journal-Sentinel. Wisconsin doctors eye abortion clinic over Illinois border. That's the headline that occurred, and then goes on to talk about how, you know, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, we're not going to have abortion allowed here in the state of Wisconsin. So talking all about putting up a clinic across the border into Illinois in order to accommodate the killing of babies in the womb. You had to go in a few pages, and then when we got to page 3, then we have the headline, Anti-Abortion Group's Office Targeted of Arson. And then, of course, they had that if abortions aren't safe, then you aren't either. You know, they had that information in there. But really, I mean, page 1 this is where you can go kill your babies if they overturn this. And page 3, oh, by the way, this anti-abortion group, yeah, they got firebombed.
Yeah. No, the Journal-Sentinel has shown its hand very, very clearly. They are going to fight, apparently to the death, so to speak, to allow people to murder unborn children. We have to keep talking that way, Jim, and because that's what they're promoting, because they knew if they ran our story, what happened to us on the front page, it makes the pro-abortionists look like exactly what they are. By the way, did you not catch the irony in that statement, if abortions aren't safe? Abortions are never safe.
Right. There's always a fatality.
There's always a fatality.
Right.
Those babies are almost always killed, and there's nothing safe about that. But that's a Journal-Sentinel.
And the media has been fanning the flames of the protests that have been happening in cities across America, including downtown Milwaukee this past weekend as well, promoting this whole aspect. And when we think about it, you know, people are saying, you know, to don't make decisions for us. You know, we want to have control. Isn't that what the justices are doing? Saying we're removing ourselves from this and penning it back to the states? I mean, this is not 9 people in black robes making a decision. They're saying, we're out of here. This is not the responsibility of the federal judiciary.
Well, that was our hope all along with this case is that we would, with this, because let's remember what Dobbs is about. Dobbs comes out of Mississippi's law that is a 15-week abortion ban, all right? It's not a heartbeat bill. It's a 15-week abortion ban. And when we saw this case come out there, the legal experts told us, look, this is the opportunity for the court to say, we're done with this. We are going to take our hands off it, and we are going to send it back to the people. That means back to the states. That's what would happen. And, you know, here they are, protesting, rioting, vandalizing across the country. It's just sad, Jim. National Day of Prayer was Thursday before Mother's Day. We were at the state capitol for an event there. 2 entrances around from us, the Democrats had orchestrated a protest for the right to kill babies. Over here, we're praying and asking for the light of truth to pierce the darkness. And how did I know? Like 3 days later, we were going to have a firebomb thrown into our office.
Right.
That's how desperate they are, and how misguided and how blind they are.
This is from lifenews.com, and it's an article. The headline caught my attention: Joe Biden slams brutality. The brutality of draft to overturn Roe, ignores brutality of abortion dismembering babies. And he, in his discussion, talked about the brutality of the Supreme Court and this draft opinion that's been released, how brutal that this matter is. And came across a piece from Dr. Anthony Levatino, who testified back in the year 2015 before a House Judiciary Committee that's investigating Planned Parenthood, who described the brutality of abortion itself. It's 2 minutes long, and I want you viewers to listen, because when you talk about brutality, it's not the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court is going to turn this back to the states. It's not the fact that they are going to issue a decision as we see so far in the draft, what we believe is going to be released, but rather it is the brutality of what happens in that abortion chamber. Let's listen to how Dr. Levatino testified before the House committee.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to get right to it. Second trimester D&E abortions perform between roughly 14 and 24 weeks of gestation. Your patient today is 17 years old. She's 22 weeks pregnant. Her baby is the length of your hand plus a couple of inches. And she's been feeling her baby kick for the last several weeks, but she's asleep on an operating room table. You walk into that operating room scrubbed and gowned, and after removing laminaria, you introduce a suction catheter into the uterus. This is a 14 French suction catheter. If she were 12 weeks pregnant or less, basically the width of your hand or smaller, you could basically do the entire procedure with this. But babies this big don't fit through catheters this size. After suctioning the amniotic fluid out from around the baby, you introduce an instrument called a Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's made of stainless steel. The business end of this clamp is about 2.5 inches long and a half-inch wide. There are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A D&E procedure is a blind abortion, so picture yourself introducing this and grabbing anything you can blindly and pull, and I do mean hard, and out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, pull out an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you. And use this instrument again and again to tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart and lungs. Head on the baby that size is about the size of a large plum. Can't see it, but you pretty good idea you've got it if you've got your instrument around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you could pull out skull pieces. And you have a day like I had a lot of times. Sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations, you just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose.
Julaine, that's 2 minutes of his 5-minute testimony there, but that is what we call brutality.
That's brutality of the highest order. I actually was privileged to hear Dr. Levatino in person about the same time he was doing this testimony. And just then, as I did now, I can't watch it, I can hardly hear it. I remember when Dr. Christensen was performing abortions in Madison. Remember him? Dennis Christensen. And I remember an article that was written about him, and he had the audacity to talk about how they have to account for all the parts of the baby.
Right.
And he talked about the little feet and the little faces. That's brutality. Where does Joe Biden get off talking about the brutality that happens because the Supreme Court says we're going to do the right thing here and turn this back to where it should have been, left with the people. That's not brutality. I don't know who advises him. I really don't. But that kind of language is totally, totally wrong. And by the way, he should be embarrassed that he's making that kind of a comparison.
Yeah. Julaine, there's so much more we can talk about this issue, but I'd like to also see the response from Governor Evers. He had initially sent out a couple tweets. We will work against overturning Roe and attacks on reproductive rights by leading with empathy and compassion. We'll defend what we believe in with our words and our voices in the streets, in the halls of government, and at the ballot box. In Wisconsin, we must lead by example. We condemn violence, he said in a later tweet, or earlier tweet, condemn violence and hatred in all forms, including the actions at Wisconsin Family Action. In Madison last night, we reject violence against any person for disagreeing with another's view. Violence is not the way forward. Hurting others is never the answer. Your response to what you've heard from the governor?
Well, the governor has issued, as I have seen it so far, 3 different statements. The first one was the one you talked about. He had a little bit about we're condemning violence, and then he goes into this Roe v. Wade applause section. In there, you read it.
In the streets.
In the street. That's just like saying, go get them, guys. You know, sorry you didn't succeed this time, but better luck next time. We'll keep doing it. But we came out and called him on that was a terrible approach to the violence that was taking place, 3 miles from the Capitol. And the next day he issued another statement in which he actually called for an investigation. So he's kind of had to morph his statement. I believe the initial statement was really where he was. He's still about protecting Roe v. Wade. Why? Because Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin raised $750,000 to help him win in 2018. And you think they're not going to be there this year? They're going to be there this year.
Is the top cop of our state, Josh Kaul, the Attorney General, is he actively digging into this, investigating to come to find who are the perpetrators of this evil deed?
I saw one tweet from him the day of or the day after, but condemning the violence. But what do we know about Josh Kaul? After the oral arguments on this case, this Dobbs case in December, he came out the next month or so and said, I don't care what happens with Roe v. Wade. If it's overturned, I refuse to enforce the 1849 criminalization statute that we have had on the books since then that would basically make most abortions in Wisconsin illegal. And he doubled down after the leaked draft opinion. He said, no. He said there will be no DOJ, Wisconsin Department of Justice resources used to enforce that statute.
Wow.
Here's our top law enforcer, right? Saying, I don't care what my job is. I am not going to enforce duly enacted legislation. Because it was enacted in 1849, signed by a governor. It's still on the books.
I'd like to also just look at some of the things happening on social media, and this is like within 24 hours of the event happening, the attack at Wisconsin Family Action. Here are some of the social media postings that took place. Sharon Kuiper-Schaefer, I totally don't agree with the violence that happened at your office, but I don't agree with how you stick your noses into other people's medical decisions and health issues. Mind your own business. I hope the people that did the damage get caught and prosecuted. Here's a Victoria Harper. I would never condone violence of any kind, but having an anti-abortion group in Madison is like putting a KKK office in Harlem. Get your religion off women's bodies. Here's Pam Bledsoe. Many women with an unwanted pregnancy are willing to risk death in order to not be pregnant. I think people that are ready to die because of your stupid rules will not hesitate to use violence. Kat Gunter, Ms. Appling, you are apparently forgetting about all the violence you so-called pro-life crowd has committed against women's clinics over the past years. How does it feel to be a target because of your beliefs? And then just a couple more. Here's Joseph Hickey. Family Action members are violent in thought, word, and deed. You can be so proud of the destruction. Tony Wachowski, oh, what a shame. Christo-fascist bigots got a little taste of the violence they subject others to. That's just some of the social media postings. Then there is also, of course, the voicemails left at Wisconsin Family Council, Wisconsin Family Action. A few, we'd have to play the bleep button forever on here, but just some of the things that were said. God gave you an example of what you're going to experience in hell. You're all going to burn. You're evil. I hope you all burn. That's what you deserve. Another one, whoever set the fire is a true American patriot. You people are utter filth, and it's too bad your mother did not abort each and every last one of you. Hopefully, you all get cancer and suffer for the betterment of all humanity. You self-absorbed waste of human scum and filth. Burn, little Jesus freaks, burn, burn, burn. And I heard you had a little bit of trouble. You hear an evil laugh, and oh, well, you've got so many more that have come in there. But the reaction, the anger, the hate, the intolerance, the vitriol that's been expressed through social media, through the phone contacts as well.
Well, I'm always reminded, Jim, when I hear those things, that these are people who don't know what true freedom is about. They are of their father, the devil. They've listened to lies, they've believed the lies, and they're striking out in anger. Again, I'm going to use the word desperation. This is the air hose I'm talking about, as they see the legalization of abortion nationwide about to be cut off. They're lashing out. You know, we can be accused of many things, I'm sure, but the accusations they're making.
They've even accused you of starting the fire yourself.
Oh yeah, some of them accused us of starting the fire ourselves. In fact, you know what they base that on? That the graffiti was cursive and it was too neat. So it couldn't have been done by hoodlums, you know. So, no, and in fact, when Jane's Revenge came out, there was one whole Twitter feed that said, how low can you go? You took time to actually make up a name of a group and claim responsibility for something you did yourself. You know, I mean, it just went on and on and on.
Yeah.
This kind of reaction, though, shouldn't surprise us. These are people who, that's how they respond now. The left has been emboldened, okay? You can respond this way in phone calls or in social media or by violence because they're allowed to, and nobody tries to stop it.
You mean the AG or the police or detectives, they're not tracking down these phone numbers?
Well, we've turned over some of them. The ones we released to the public were not ones that really the police thought rose to the level of a direct threat. We have had some direct threats. In fact, after Jane's Revenge claimed responsibility on Tuesday, the calls got worse, much, much more direct. And we've turned some over. So
You know, I find it interesting that all of a sudden women are back on the scene again. I mean, all of this transgender movement has been about, we got pregnant men emojis now that are out there, and that men with women body parts can be pregnant, or and it's just. But all of a sudden now, the focus is back on women.
It is back on women, and responding to some of these Twitter things that you read that were from women, right? A lot of them were from women. Number one, pregnancy is not an illness. Pregnancy is God's gift to mankind for procreation and the repopulation and the blessing of children in a married couple, right? Secondly, abortion is not health care. And there's no way you can call abortion health care. Well, you can call it that, but it isn't,
not,
no
right.
matter how you talk about it. And that bothers them whenever we talk like that. And it is women. And, you know, it's unfortunate that people are not understanding that. We found it very curious. They get to call themselves pro-choice, but we can't call ourselves pro-life.
No, anti-abortionists.
We're anti-abortion. And it's not characteristic of who we are. We're truly pro-life. But these are just people who are angry. They don't know a better way to respond. Nobody's called us and said, could we meet for a dialogue? Could we just sit down and talk about this rationally and without all of the, you know, the violence and rhetoric and all that? No, nobody's ever called us to do that. So this is where we live right now, and it's caused changes, and it's going to cause changes yet to come that we don't even know about.
One of the public officials that has spoken out is Senator Ron Johnson. Your reaction to things that he has said at this point?
Well, two things. Number one, I'm very grateful for Senator Johnson stepping up and saying this is wrong, and he called immediately. Well, late last week, and then repeat it again over the weekend. He called the U.S. Attorney General on the carpet and said, why aren't you calling this domestic terrorism? Why aren't you doing the kind of investigation you ought to be doing? And I'm sure you saw that 5 of our 8 members of Congress, all of them happen to be Republicans, wrote a joint letter to the U.S. Attorney General saying, you've got to get moving on this. Use the resources of the federal government to go after the people who perpetrated this against Wisconsin Family Action. And they did it for the same reason I've been concerned about, the speed at which this is not moving. So it doesn't happen to someone else.
Right. Very interesting. Now, there's another public official kind of speaking out, and that is Robin Vos, who seems to be more capitulating to this. I mean, here is from the Journal-Sentinel from May 12th. Vos backs exceptions to ban and looks at expanding access to abortion other than what our state law says if Roe v. Wade is overturned. Well,
let's go back to that 1849 statute for a minute, okay? What that statute says is basically the only exception is the life of the mother. So what Robin Vos was calling for was rape and incest, right? That would be an additional exception or additional exceptions added to that law. So it sounds to me like Robin Vos, as Speaker of the Assembly, is rallying the troops to amend that law. I think that law should be amended. I think the life of the mother exception should be taken out because it gets abused. We haven't tightly defined it in there, 1849, right, 2022. We need to more tightly refine it so that the abortionists can't find a giant loophole somewhere in there and keep doing abortion, saying, oh, it's about the life of the mother. But Robin's got apparently saying, hey, we're going to get people together, so in 2023, we're going to come back and amend that law to add these exceptions. Robin's always been very friendly to exceptions. A couple times that he would not accept bills unless they had exceptions. Look, we don't think that the circumstances that resulted in the conception of a baby doesn't diminish in any way the value, worth, and dignity of a baby who all of us have stamped on us the image of God, our Creator. So whether it's rape or incest, as regrettable as that is, as horrific as that is, that doesn't give anyone the right to take the life of that baby.
What year was that law drafted?
1849.
Okay, so that is often being used. See, it's archaic. We need to get rid of it. But I'm sure that our laws against murder predate that. And I also believe that, all this rhetoric that we're hearing about, we're abandoning 50 years of precedent. Well, we're abandoning 120-some years of precedent that we had prior to that Roe decision being made.
Well, that was back when we understood that from the moment of conception, we understood biology, right?
Yeah.
That at the moment of conception, we have a brand new, unique human being. Everything. I hope everybody understands this. At that moment, that baby will never be more human than that baby is at that moment. Unique DNA, we know all of that. In 1849, it was without question. They used a term like quick, okay? But a baby actually is quick in the fullest sense of the term, meaning alive, right? At the moment of conception. It just needs time and the right environment. We need 9 months for a baby to come out and be part of the human race with all of us, right? And being that fertilized egg being implanted in the uterine wall. That's all it needs. It'll never be more human. But the left, where they really frustrate me is everything has to be science, except when it is inconvenient.
Right, indeed. Julaine Appling with us here tonight. Friends, we'd like to open our phone lines. Maybe you have some questions regarding what's unfolded since Mother's Day, the direct attack upon Wisconsin Family Council, Wisconsin Family Action. Our phone number here tonight, inFocus, maybe a comment on what you see take place. The response from the governor, the response from the Attorney General's office, or should I say the lack thereof. Our phone number here tonight, 414-935-3030. 414-935-3030. Toll free. You may reach us at 1-800-733-8830. That's 800-733-8830. And to text in your question or a brief comment, you may do so on our text-in line at 414-439-3585. That's 414-439-3585. Just before we pick up our first call on this issue, I had a whole plethora of things we should talk about here this evening, but we're going to take time just to talk about one of them this evening, and this is some middle school age boys, Kiel, Wisconsin, actually accused of sexual harassment for using wrong pronouns?
Yeah, this is crazy. So let's remember middle school. From what we can tell, these were 8th graders. They're 13, right? They're boys, taught junior high for a number of years. And what they were doing was they were using the child's biologically accurate pronouns. He, him, okay, or he, she, or her, or something like that. And that they got accused by school personnel and probably from that student saying, no, I want to be called they and them. And when that didn't naturally happen or happen consistently, the school district brought a complaint against them, a Title IX complaint, and a breach of the school policy. And I don't know. If I was Keel and I got a letter from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty filled with the kind of legal support that they gave them, I'd back down from it immediately. I haven't seen anything, Jim, that says that these folks there that are running the Keel School District have backed down.
Right.
This is crazy.
It is.
An 8th grade boy is not going to stop and go, oh, yeah, I've got to call this person they and them. That is not how they think. That's not how God wired us to think.
Yeah.
So
the school board is silent on this issue?
I haven't heard anything. Now, I was buried last week and all of this stuff, but this came out towards the end of the week, and I saw it. And to the best of my knowledge, I haven't talked to anybody at Will about this yet, but to the best of my knowledge, I haven't heard anything about Keel backing down.
Yeah. Friends, that's how bizarre things are going right now. But tonight, taking your phone calls for Julaine Appling, 414-935-3030, toll free 800-733-8830. The text line 414-439-3585. We've got Kelly in Mayville. Kelly, you're on the air.
Hi, I just want to offer my prayers up to all the pro-life movement, and just to say that we have the God who created the universe on our side, so we shouldn't get discouraged when bad things happen. So.
Okay, well, Kelly, thank you for your call, and Julaine, I know you appreciate the prayers of many.
Oh, my word. I don't know how you get through it without the prayers and support of people. Listen, within minutes of this story going around the country on Sunday afternoon, I was hearing from my peers literally from coast to coast, telling us they were praying for us. And here's what I know, Jim. I believe with all my heart it was intended for evil. But the God that we know and love and serve, he will find some way to make good out of it.
Yeah.
And I think he's already done that. Stories I could begin to tell you about how God has supplied for us in places that it would blow you away. And we're very, very grateful.
You know, this really boils down to each one recognizing the importance of this matter. I mean, so many people have perhaps been on the fence. I don't really want to say anything, don't want to ruffle feathers, but it's a time to stand up and be counted.
It really is. You know, we were thinking about that this is such a visible reminder that people who take a position on the life issue in particular, and I can remind everybody, today it's life, tomorrow it could be another issue,
right?
Because it's just who we are, that it's real, that the animosity towards God's sanctity of human life plan is very, very real. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We're wrestling against spiritual powers and darkness. And this should be a great reminder to many, many people who, pastors and others, Jim, who have said, we're going to stay out of it, it's political.
We need to recognize that this is a biblical issue. It's a moral issue, and it must be addressed. And friends, we trust that you recognize that aspect. We cannot sit by idly. Mark is calling next from Sussex. Good evening, Mark. You're on the air.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for taking my call. I just wanted to share a scripture and encouragement and thank you to Julaine. Joshua says in Joshua 1:9, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. The Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Yeah. Thank you for taking your stand for God, for righteousness, and for life. God bless you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Powerful verses in Scripture that remind us that it's true, isn't it, that God goes with us through the storms, as Clarence Thomas was saying. Whether it's a calm day or a hurricane, our great God is there in the midst of it. So thank you for that encouragement very much. Appreciated, Mark.
And here's another note of encouragement. This is from text from Kirk in Oak Creek. Julaine, keep standing for life of all children. I applaud you for being strong through all of this. And indeed, standing for life. And again, it's important that Wisconsin Family Council continues to exist. Wisconsin Family Action continues to exist. But that is also made up. You're able to exist because of people who are going to stand with you through these times.
You know, if we don't have people standing with us, we're just a paper tiger, right? Because there's only 8 of us against the world, so to speak. But no, this is about others and it's for others, the work that we do, Jim. It's always been that way. And we're so grateful for the outpouring of support. You know, you read all these negative things and the horrible phone calls, but we've had so many good notes and texts and phone calls and things too coming in, encouraging us. It's just been amazing. Do you know that we have heard from 40, I think it was 42 or 43 states just without us saying a word, sending money to help us.
Wow.
I mean, all over the country. This is amazing that God's people are hearing it. And as you say, we're not political, we're biblical. That's an important concept. If the issue of life comes down to being political, it's time for us to have a major readjustment in our thinking. It's been politicized, but it's not biblical.
Friends, our phone number here tonight, 414-935-3030. A question that you might have pertaining to what's unfolded. Maybe you have a response to the abortion issue, what we see taking place in our streets today, here across not only the city of Milwaukee, but across the United States as well. Perhaps the unfolding of Roe v. Wade coming before us, a draft opinion that's been leaked, and so far another leak indicating that nobody's changing their minds on this at this point. But certainly we see the injustice of what's going on outside the justices' homes, Supreme Court justices. Your comment on that issue, 414-935-3030, toll free at 1-800-733-8830 is our number, and the text in line 414-439-3585. Julaine, you mentioned right after this happened that you had an event that you went to Verona and held. You've got another such event that is coming up even tomorrow evening, Tuesday, May 17th, in Grafton, Wisconsin. Tell us about it.
Well, we've entitled this round of events, community events, Your Backyard, Own It. Well, interestingly, my backyard got attacked, but it was a great reminder that that's part of our backyard. And what we know, Jim, is if we don't take responsibility for where we live, someone else is going to, and we're probably not going to like what they do. And so it's time for all of us to say, okay, what kind of things can I do in my community to make my community good? Okay? What do we mean by good? That there's a measure of godliness there, meaning that laws and statutes and ordinances that reflect God's character, His precepts, His principles, His commandments, that's good for everybody.
Yeah.
But people don't know how to organize, and they don't know how to, for instance, help people get good people elected. At the local level, good people elected at the state level. And by the way, all elections are won or lost at the local level. And we're in a big election year. So we're going to be in Grafton tomorrow evening from 6 to 8. And the name of the park is Kiln Park or Kiln Park. Kiln Park.
Robert Zahn Pavilion in Lime Kiln Park.
I'm glad you've got that name. That one escaped me a long time ago. But we're going to be at a pavilion there. It'll be inside. It won't be outside. From 6 to 8 in the evening, and we're going to bring a presentation that will help people understand what they can do and how they can do it, not just for an election year, but for way beyond that.
So if people can still attend this, if they alert you, by 10 o'clock Tuesday morning?
Yeah, if they can let us know by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, we can still probably get them something to eat. Because dinner comes with it. There's no charge for the event. We don't charge for the food either. But, they can check us out on our website and register online, or they can give us a call in the office. We can handle that registration there.
Great. And again, that toll-free number, 1-888-378-7395, or you can check it out at wifamilycouncil.org, wifamilycouncil.org. I want to just make mention, this is your final program with us here, Lord willing, back in September again. But you've got a number of events coming up through this summer as well. I noticed in Sheboygan, you're going to be there on June the 9th. You're going to be in Delafield on June 16th. Fond du Lac, June 23rd, and people can go to your website to get the details or call the toll-free number and get more information on these.
Absolutely, and we encourage them to do that. Look, we're putting on about 30 of these. We started in the middle of February. We'll run them through early November because we think it's very important, number one, that we're out talking to people and helping them understand, and we invite people to join us. These are great opportunities. They're smaller. They run anywhere from like 30 to 70 or so, depending on the venue. And it's an opportunity for us to interact with them differently and for them to ask questions, too.
Another text and comment that arrived, God bless you in your work. We need to start standing firm and be more vocal. This too shall pass with God's help and blessing. I feel sorry for all the children going to school today. Just with implications there, that is certainly many are becoming indoctrinated in different matters, and we think about what's going on in Kiel, Wisconsin right now with the transgendering aspect. But this is a time they're saying to stand firm. Also, here's another one that just came in, Sandy from Milwaukee. What can you envision happening to WFA and WFC if Roe is overturned? Will your focus change at all?
Well, if Roe is overturned, we continue to advance a culture of life in Wisconsin, because it would come back here. We have that statute in place. We have a sitting AG who says he's not going to enforce it. We know that that will result in lawsuits, okay? But what could also, what else could result in lawsuits is groups like Planned Parenthood immediately challenging the statute, saying it's not enforceable, okay? Which I would fully expect that. So what are we going to do? We're continuing to advance legislation that recognizes the personhood of every unborn child, right? We're going to advance what we hope would be changes to our existing statute to make it very clear that abortion is illegal in Wisconsin. And we're going to work with churches to encourage them to look at their ministries to figure out what can we do to administer to women who are in these crisis pregnancies. If we don't want them to seek abortions, then we need to help them. And we especially are encouraging them, Jim, to work with pregnancy care centers, to support them financially. Talk to your people about volunteering for them, because they are going to be more important than ever. I've always said they're the best ground game we have in the pro-life movement, bar none. But their profile, Jim, if I can use that term, is going to just rise and just go sky high, because they're the places all over this great state where they're welcoming with compassion and grace and truth the women who come in and the men who come in and saying, we're extending a hand of help. We're not sitting in judgment. We want you to consider the options. My goodness, how blessed we are that they're there. By the way, we're getting ready to give another round of Choose Life Wisconsin grants. We've got $30,000 we were trying to get out last week. We got distracted. But we'll be getting those out very soon here to another 12 pregnancy care centers.
Okay, so let's back up here a bit. For those who are not aware, there is a specialty plate called Choose Life Wisconsin. A portion of the proceeds from this actually goes to preserve and protect life, so to speak, by providing for pregnancy care centers.
Well, the only correction I have to make to that statement is a portion of every dime that comes in from the sale of those plates, we turn around.
Except for that, which is part of the registration fee for the state. So
right. Well, because it's $25.
Right.
It's an extra $25 a year, and it's a tax-deductible donation. And that $25 every quarter gets given to Choose Life Wisconsin. We turn around and then invest that back into the pregnancy care centers. And we take care of the overhead for Choose Life Wisconsin in partnership with Pro-Life Wisconsin. We don't want a dime of that money to be used for anything other than to go to the pregnancy care centers. And so those kinds of things need to be promoted. For those who think that once Roe v. Wade is overturned, okay, done, we go home now. No. We have so much work to do. It's really, our work is just beginning. We just have a better playing field to start with.
Right.
But if you think the people who firebombed our office and wrote that graffiti and are doing other things across the country, you think they're going to quit? If they did that on a draft opinion, what are they going to do when we get the real thing, if it's anywhere near?
And you see the other attacks going on in the schools, the whole transgender issue that you also on the forefront of dealing with issues like this and protecting young children in the schools, protecting our faith and liberty, freedom of worship and so forth here in our state as well.
Well, you know, and that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't think about that until now, but there is a Supreme Court case now from the Madison School District that began in 2020. Remember that some Madison parents found out that the school was purposely lying to them if their child was presenting as an opposite gender at school from what they were at home. And that case is, some aspect of that case is now going to the Supreme Court. I believe oral arguments are on the 23rd.
Wow. So
I think it's a week from, next Monday or something like that. And that will be a very significant case.
Marriage, family, life, liberty. I mean, those issues you're involved in. Julaine, we've got a minute here, and I'd like to bring another issue to the attention of our viewers here this evening, and that is another aspect of your organization has been warning about the expansion of gambling here in our state. And just this past Friday, we see that there has been approval from the Bureau of Indian Affairs to kind of clear the last hurdle, so to speak, for a casino around Beloit, Wisconsin.
Well, this is so significant because Governor Evers was given, in Wisconsin, the law says the governor gets final say on whether or not it's going to happen as far as the state level, right? And he, in 2021, in March of 2021, said, oh yeah, we want another casino in Beloit. Here's what's significant about that. It will be the first off-reservation casino in the state. Now, think about that. If you give one tribe permission for an off-reservation casino, What are you going to say when the other 10 say, oh, I want one where, we want land here, we want to buy land in this community? How do you tell them no? I don't know how we tell them no. And what happened over the weekend and from Friday going forward, the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, put the land where the casino will be in Beloit in trust. What does that mean? It means now the Ho-Chunk tribe, the sovereign nation of the Ho-Chunk Nation, has complete control of that land in perpetuity, meaning forever.
Wow.
The city of Beloit ceded that land. Now there's another adjacent plot of land that's somewhere between 30 and 40 acres that the tribe also owns. That is not currently in trust. But imagine 70-some acres now in this area of Beloit now being under the control of a sovereign nation. In this situation, it's the Ho-Chunks. And they're going to build a casino that's going to increase our gambling problem, destroy more families, and hurt the businesses in Beloit. Crime will go up. All of that is going to come because of adding another casino.
We've got just a minute left, Julaine, and we are approaching the summer months. Many people check out, so to speak, but there really needs to be an engaging in these issues, and I think also of the fact that we are coming up to a very important primary here in the middle part of August. August
9th, we have our primary for the fall partisan elections. We've got a huge gubernatorial primary, right, for the governor. We got a lot of Republicans have, I think, like 5-6 candidates out there. Not for the Democrat, but there's for our state assembly, state senate, attorney general, U.S. Senate, all of those things that are going to be on the ballot. This is way too early to check out. We have to be paying attention. We encourage people to check out our websites, stay in tune with you, and so that they're looking and listening to what VCY America is putting out there as reminders. We've got a heavy lift. Elections have consequences.
Yes, they do.
And law matters. We've seen it.
Yeah.
So
and we've also seen the disregard of law and what lawlessness will do. And you've experienced the lawlessness firsthand. Julaine, thank you for coming and sharing tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
And all this season here on
Yes,
inFocus
it's been
as
great.
well.
Thank you, Jim.
Julaine Appling here from Wisconsin Family Action, Wisconsin Family Council. And again, folks, don't forget, those of you in the Grafton area, tomorrow evening, 6 to 8 p.m., and details are on the screen, but you can call their toll-free number in the morning, 1-888-378-7395. Future events coming up for Sheboygan, Delafield, and Fond du Lac during the month of June as well. You can call and get more info or check out their website at wifamilycouncil.org. Friends, we want to thank you for tuning in to WVCY's inFocus program, not only tonight, but all season long, as we keep you informed on critical issues and to continue to keep the ministry of VCY in your prayers, as well as that of Wisconsin Family Council. Good night. May God bless you.